Hello and welcome to the Healthy Voyager's Global Kitchen. I'm Carolyn Scott Hamilton, and today we're making Monster Cyclops brownie eyeball bites. They're raw, but they're vegan and delicious and sweet and yummy, and they will look great on the table at your next Halloween party. All right, so this is what you're gonna need. All right, you're gonna need a cup of raw peanuts, a quarter cup of fresh dates, a half cup of raw peanut butter unsalted, a pinch of sea salt, a dash of vanilla extract, about a teaspoon, a quarter cup of raw cocoa powder, an eighth cup of agave syrup or date syrup if you like, and some semi-sweet chocolate, about 12 ounces, and some candy eyeballs. Okay, let's get started. First, we're gonna make the brownie bite filling. We're gonna take the chocolate and the eyeballs and set them aside for later because we're gonna melt that to dip them into. But we're gonna make the base first. So we're gonna start by putting everything except the peanuts into the blender or a food processor to get a nice pasty mixture, and then we'll put the nuts in after so you have a little bit of crunch. We'll put the dates in, put the agave so we have some liquid at the bottom of the blender. Get all that sweet stuff in there. And you can taste it after you blend it just to see, for sweetness, you can add a little more, whatever you need. After all, it is Halloween. I'm gonna put in the cacao powder, the vanilla, and you can always bump up vanilla when you're baking just to give it a little more flavor. And then we're gonna just do a little bit of salt, not too much. It brings out the chocolate flavor. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and blend this up until we get a nice pasty texture. So we've got this down to a pasty mixture, and you'll see that it looks like brownie. So we're gonna go ahead and put in our nuts and crush those guys up. And then we'll be ready to chill this for a little while so it firms up. Right, so we are all set. And now we're gonna take our brownie mixture and put it in a bowl, and we're gonna let it chill in the refrigerator for about 10 minutes so that the batter kind of firms up so that you can roll them into little eyeballs. And if you don't have a powerful blender at home, you can use a food processor or something that can grind nuts really well, like a coffee grinder or something like that. But just make sure you get it pasty enough and get the nuts small enough so when you're taking bites out of your little eyeballs, you don't crack your teeth. All right, so make sure you get all that good stuff out of the bottom of your container, and we're gonna let this firm up for about 10 minutes. Come back, melt the chocolate, and make our eyeballs. Okay, so while our brownie batter is chilling in the fridge, we're gonna go ahead and melt down our chocolate. So if you don't have a double boiler, which is the best way to melt chocolate, because if you put it directly in a pot or a pan, it's gonna burn. So this way, if you don't have a double boiler, you just set on a small saucepan, fill it with water, and then put a little bowl on top, and then you put the chocolate into that. All right, so our water is heating up now. You can heat the water on high and then turn it down so you don't burn your chocolate. We're just gonna put in piece by piece of your semi-sweet chocolate. You don't want to overload it because it'll take too long to melt. So this way it evenly melts. So if you get a first layer of chocolate that starts to melt, then you put in the next, and it's going to help it just melt a lot more quickly. Plus, once we get it melted, we want it to cool a little bit because we have to handle it when we start to put the eyeballs in there. Okay, so we've got a single layer of chocolate in the double boiler, and it's starting to melt nicely. And then once it gets a little more liquefied, we'll add some more. Okay, so our chocolate is all melted. We're gonna take it off of the hot boiling water. Be very careful because your bowl, if you don't have a double boiler with a handle, is gonna be very, very hot. So make sure you use oven mitts or gloves or something. So we're gonna set that aside to cool because again, we're gonna have to use it to dip the eyeballs into. And I think our brownie batter is ready to go. I'll be right back. All right, so our brownie batter's ready. We're gonna roll these into little eyeballs, then we're gonna dip them in the chocolate. You can use a rounded toothpick to dip them in there, but they may fall apart because they're more crumbly, so it's better when you pack them tight and you use 2 forks to dip them in the chocolate, then place them onto wax-lined paper. So that way you can put it on a cookie sheet and put it right into the fridge to chill for about 10 minutes. All right, so we're gonna start by grabbing a good, pinchful, and you're gonna just mash them down as much as you can, because the oils of the peanut butter are gonna kind of keep them together. And you're gonna roll them into little balls, like so. So you'll see they kind of stick together. And because they're Cyclops monster eyeballs, they don't have to be perfect. So they can be chunky and freaky and Halloween-y. So we're gonna take these guys, make them nice and compact. We're gonna put them in the chocolate. We're gonna just very delicately roll them in the chocolate so they don't fall apart, because they will come together nicely once you put them in the fridge, because that chocolate's gonna harden around them. They're gonna be like yummy little bonbons. All right, so once we've gotten one done, and it's okay if you drip some chocolate because you can break the excess chocolate off afterwards. So you've got one. And don't forget to put your little eyeball on before they go in the fridge so that it sticks nicely to the chocolate while it's cooling. Okay, so we've gotten our eyeballs coated with yummy chocolate, and now we're gonna do the finishing touch of putting on the candy eyeballs. And once we're done with that, we just pop these in the fridge for 10 minutes and the chocolate hardens and you are ready to party Halloween style. Okay, see these guys in 10 minutes. All right, so our eyeballs are ready, and I went ahead and just put them in this lovely glass jar so they look like my specimens on my Halloween table. That's it.